This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Ann-Marie Andrich, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HRTheRealDeal, HR by HR for HR. So Katarina, we just love the Spotify band manifesto. How does the manifesto help you navigate in disruptive times like this with the crisis and the pandemic?
I think the band manifesto has been key. It has helped us take a lot of important decisions in a very fast time. And I think everything got stressed during the pandemic. So how we take decision, how we set up our crisis management, communication, how we decided, to rally the masses and try to be better at togetherness and bringing people together, still have a sense of belonging, leadership, what we actually, I think, expect from our leaders in times like this, and helping us have that connecting tissue, the social glue, if you like. So it's been very helpful.
I can imagine. So for the ones who don't know what the manifesto is, if we take a step back, how would you describe it? What is it actually?
So it's not one of those, I would say, and others, can disagree, but I don't think, and I know that we never wrote it as a pompous kind of, this is the manifesto and it will always be like this. It's actually evolution. But in the beginning or early days, we had something that we called the Passion Tour, when a couple of central people in my team went on a tour, more like, Lady Gaga is coming to town. So we set it up as a rock concert, moving around the world. And then we built a homepage so we could be open and transparent of what happened. And then we decided to go out with this workshop, needing and really massaging the vision and the mission back then, and also the values. We wanted to ask and invite everybody and give everybody a voice. What should be the values in the organization? And then why we made sure that it would be a conversation between, or a facilitation or a workshop between HR and all the different offices was, it had to be exactly the same in every office. So we started off in the most remote and then worked ourselves back to the bigger offices like New York and London, and then we ended up in the headquarters in Stockholm. And it was a way of collecting what should the values actually be, and how do you feel about this vision and mission, and do you have a buy-in? So it's not just a product on a screen or a piece of paper or in the elevators. And then that has, I think it has progressed in a way where we ended up and wrote the band manifesto. Also, I think one has to remember we did the Passion Tour not when we were toddlers, but maybe when we were teenagers as an organization. And the band manifesto came out now when we are young adults, super scared to being adults, but being young adults. So it's more of a guidance. And I think what is actually new with it is that we decided to go a bit public or external with it. We always were a very value-driven company, and all of these things has been very important and central in our intra-days.
That's I really appreciate you sort of walking us through that whole journey, the values journey that you did. I know that this is not the first time that you've done this. In your previous work life, you've done this a few times before. Always started with the values journey. Why do you do that? Why? I mean, are you like a one-trick pony, or what is this?
Yeah, so good for you that it's plexiglass here now due to Corona, so I can't punch you, but calling me a one-trick pony. But I think you're right. I think that is something that I have seen worked in any industry, to really take the time and give everybody a voice, and not make a paper product or do a leadership like program, or and go out and say, this is the company and this is what we want to be, and this is also, please, all employees that actually do the work, this is what you should follow, or this is a policy or a guideline. I don't necessarily think policies and guidelines work so well. So doing a value-driven kind of approach, and giving everybody a voice, as we already talked about, and invite them. I think there is a couple of things, and you know this too, from the companies you've been in. The hardest people to persuade in the beginning that this is the way and this is the approach and this is the way to do it is usually the lead team, right?
Yeah. Jesus, yes.
Yes. And here you have to be a salesperson as an HR professional, right? You have to tell them why, like what is the purpose, what is the aim, and what are the issues, right? What are we trying to solve for? And then you discuss the how, which is sometimes in any type of organization today, when speed is important and competition is important, obviously, and competitors are as connected as you are. Everybody is very action or impulse driven. This is something that you kind of put the seeds down and then you start to harvest and harness a couple of years later. And you can either be in the school of you get a culture or a company and you can't really do anything or work with it, or you can be in the school of, hey, you can cultivate and design, and even if the culture is the people and the people is the culture, which I truly believe, and you bring them into that work, I think that is the way. And so yes, I guess you are right in that sense that this is what I always do, one trick pony for sure. But has those approaches and the work and the design, has that been the same when I was in the media business, or even in telco or oil business, or in the bank industry or whatever? No, because the size, and if it's an international company or if it's a Swedish company or if it's a global company, and what you actually do and what type of employees you have makes a whole difference. But what about you? What is your experience?
I agree. I also think, I mean, the values, you have to start with the values, because that is sort of the foundation of everything that you do later on, right? Regardless if you need to, set the leadership, for example, the leadership framework, or, your learning agenda, or, how you attract talent, for example. I mean, that is the foundation and that is the glue. So I agree with you. I think starting with the values help you define and develop that culture that, again, will be revisited throughout the development of an organization. So I totally agree with you. But just to come back to, you said it, the hardest group to convince initially is actually the management team. I mean, and I've been sort of thinking about, why is that? What is your reflections? Why is it trickiest with the management team to get sort of a grasp of this initially? Why do you think that?
I think for all of us that are behaviorists, I think it's like, oh, this is common sense.
Exactly.
But we know a couple of things, right? Common sense is not that common anymore,
right.
One.
Yeah.
And two, this is actually our core. This is what we do.
Yeah.
We know people, we know behaviors, we know what actually can move mountains. And the rest of the management team, they know other things and are experts within those fields. And this is not something that you can actually bring a lot of data into, because not that many, surprisingly, companies have done this. So it's very hard to point on, this is the effect, this is exactly. So there is a couple of moments there when you persuade them, where you have to go, trust me on this.
Exactly.
Right. And if you are in a company that are, for good reasons, into numbers or highly tech intense, right? Those arguments, they just don't fly, right? So you either have to sell, you have to wear them down, or you have to prove. And after a couple of journeys, at least for me, I have had the great opportunity and the great fortune, and also been very lucky to been not in one, and not in two, but three turnarounds, where the company was great, the business idea was great, people was super great, but we were just not making money. And when you're not making money, you're not free, and it's very hard to sometimes do whatever you think is important. And the only thing, and we didn't in HR, I certainly didn't, do the change, but you have to open the floodgates and really make sure that, that sparkle in everybody's eyes. And when you see that, like, oh, I get it. I truly understand what we are about and what we do and how everything is connected. So helping connecting the dots, and also, not just connecting, but collecting the dots. And then if you have smart people, they will figure the rest out. And this is, I think, the whole issue with the management team or the lead team is this. When you sit on a top, if you use that metaphor, you sit on all information. So for you to be inspired or engaged or like lean in and understand what decision to make, and even then you make the wrong mistakes, right? And wrong decisions. But for them then to understand that if we are getting more transparent and if we give everybody the same information at the same time, right? Trust our people. The speed will go up. Like the trust goes up, the speed goes up. The trust goes down, the speed goes down. So there are so many things where when you and I sit and discuss, we go like, yes, we know. But it doesn't make them stupid and it doesn't make them change a word. But it's nothing that they studied when they went to university, and it's nothing that they have spent 5, 10, 15, 20 years in their profession. This is where our role comes in, right? It is how can we really open the floodgates, right? For the business, for the people to jump in and do what they actually got hired to do, rather than sometimes leadership and management be the blockers of that. Or what would you say?
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think also if I reflect upon, where I was, struggling a little bit to convince management teams, I think I was also fortunate to have a manager who trusted me, right? So when I said to my peers, like, okay, trust the process, trust me on this one, we will be fine, I also had the backup support of my manager, right? And I think that is super crucial as well. And then, of course, I mean, when you embark on these journeys, sometimes you also need to, just be, don't let go, be courageous, go on that path, and then obviously you will get some wins. And when you get those wins, and when the management team also sees that, well, if the people out in the organization, people who report into us, if they, they get it and they, get energized and inspired and feel the empowerment of doing things like this, then of course you are also convincing them through that process and by their own people. So I think, I think there are a lot of aspects here.
I think you say something really important too. Even if nobody, including the CEO, the person that you report into,
Exactly.
Does not get it, it only needs a very brave CEO. And I think both of us have worked with people and had a boss, the CEO, that has at one point, for different reasons, sometimes just like, oh, I need to get this woman to quiet down, or
Exactly.
I think I get it, but I don't get it. But they all been very brave because they trusted you, or at least they let you fail on your own.
Exactly.
By saying, okay, I'm going to back this up, or it's okay for you to do this, or you can run this right through the organization. And you know what? Next time, if it doesn't fly, I might not give you that like leverage, or I'm not going to get you that freedom, or I might not have your back. And that is the only thing that you need. You need a brave CEO. And that, I think, leads us to one of the things that is most important as a CHRO, right? Or a VP people, or HR, or whatever you would like to call.
Whatever we call ourselves, right?
The CEO needs to recruit you, pick you, and you need to pick your CEO. Because there will be days when you don't see eye to eye, and you're not supposed to do that on everything. Right? You should not necessarily, back your strengths up and be a duplicate of each other. You should actually be shoulder to shoulder. And here, I think if there is an active choice and you have the same values and you see the same vision for your company, you can go off and you can do the work together. And this is also how you work and move the things that you would like to move. As soon as somebody inherits you as an HR lead, or as soon as there is a switch of CEO, I think there needs to be a new repurpose or even a re-proposal of that marriage. And I think there is a lot of companies that hasn't understood, and even CEOs and HR leads. So I think there needs to be a trust, but also a lot of brave CEOs out there to understand what this muscle that they haven't used, that actually, helps getting the blood running in the whole organization.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And I think that I sometimes, or if I'm honest, I weigh that decision making equal. Of course, I value the company and the journey, but if I don't appreciate the CEO or the head of the business, who, whatever role, title that person has, then, it doesn't matter how interesting the company is, this relationship will not fly. Basically means I will not be able to do my job. So I totally agree. Yeah. Cool. So do you want to end with your usual 3 things?
3 things?
Always 3 things, Katarina.
Okay. Stay safe, stay strong, stay active.
Idemo dalje.
Stay safe, stay strong, stay active.
Doviđenja. You missed it. Doviđenja. You're not with me on this one.
Can we just do that?
Idemo dalje.
What the fuck?
Where are you? You want to end with your 3 things?
Only 3 things?
My thighs are burning.
Okay, I'm going to focus.
Okay.